All right, guys, I'm back. What I did is I had the SanDisk 420 or 240, excuse me, gig hard drive loaded into the HP here, and I did the upgrade to Windows 10. Now, I found that with the 500, I did a couple takes here before, and I found that with the 500 gig, the first couple boot cycles were quite a bit slower and logging into Windows, so it took quite a bit longer to do that. So to give a fair comparison, I'm going to go each through a couple boot cycles off camera and make sure that it's comfortable in its new skin here. And when I start getting consistent times, I'm going to go start posting those. I think that would be a more just a more comparable view and show you what kind of performance that you can get. Now let's remember the Windows 7 original boot was about 54 seconds, and I did run those times and those stayed pretty consistent, but Windows 10 seems to be varying quite a bit. So I have the 500 gig hard drive, you can see that off camera here, loaded. And also there was a when I was looking at the drive parameters in Windows earlier, it showed that as about a 250 gig hard drive, and the reason for that is when I cloned this 240, it also cloned the partition. So there's only a 240 gig partition on the 500 gig drive, and I can expand that out later. We're not going to worry about that right now. Just doing this for the sake of getting it quick and getting it out there. So we are going to run boot off the 500 gig hard drive, and we'll see how that does. Hitting the power and the start at the same time. And the initial boot, when I first did this, was like 52 seconds and 36 seconds from login to the desktop. And we're going to see if we can do better than that here. And boom, boom, 17.54. Yeah, huge difference. And we are going to pause for just a moment. I'll get my login information. I'll be right back. All right, now we're going to do a couple tests. We got the 240 gig hard drive in here. And like I said, I'm going to cut this up so we have the, the boot to log in one right after the other, so we're comparing side by side and one right after the other. I think that'll kind of make this flow a little bit better. So it'll jump a little bit and probably won't flow perfectly, but I'm kind of new to this whole video thing, so we'll see how it works out. I just want to share the information. I'm not looking to be the next YouTube star. I don't think that'll ever happen. So anyway, so we have now the 240 gig, and we see it right there, the SanDisk. SSD, and a solid state drive, which is no moving parts. It's like basically 240 gig of RAM. There's a difference in data transfer rate than RAM, and there's a lot of differences between RAM and an SSD, but they use the same principle. They're solid state, there's no moving parts, and the data access is much faster. The read-write rates are much higher. And that's why you see the increase in the performance that you'll see with an SSD compared to a traditional hard drive. Now granted, the SSDs are pricier than traditional hard drives because they are newer technology, but and I think the point of this was to kind of see what you can do to breathe life into an older computer, and the different ways that you can do that. All right, so we'll start with the testing here. We have got again the 240 gig SSD, and let me move this so you can see that a little better. And we're going to do, I've done a boot cycle on this before. The first boot that I did on this SSD was 13.29 seconds. That was compared to the 500 gig hard drive, which did it in 52. So it did take quite a bit longer. And the login to desktop was 4.5 seconds. So I suspect these times, now that it's not the first boot, and Windows is a little more comfortable in its own skin, it's going to be a little bit quicker. So we're going to do this, power and start at the same time. And we're going to watch this. This is a boot to the login screen. That's what I want. So I hope I'm not blocking anything here. Boot to login. Boom. 12.8. And that was pretty good. That was a little bit faster than the last one. The last one, the 500 gig hard drive, fastest time for boot to login was 17.54. So these numbers seem small, but like I said, I'll cover that later. But if you add that to a day's worth of work, or a general computer session, I think you'll find there's going to be quite a bit of difference. So we're going to pause here for just a second. I'll put my login information, and we'll go a login. All right, back at it. Have my login information in there. We're going to hit enter and start at the same time, and this is a login to the desktop. Boink. And first time it logged in was like 36 seconds, and we're going to see how long it takes now. Boom. We're at 10.4. So dramatic increase. So yeah, the performance definitely increases once Windows gets a little more familiar with what it's doing. All right, so we'll pause again and we'll go to OpenOffice next. All right, back, login information's in, hit enter and start. And okay guys, remember, don't criticize me on my reaction time here. But about 10 seconds. That was a little faster than the last, or a little slower than the last one. I run about 4.5 to 10. Nothing got faster to 10 on the 500 gig hard drive. It was 36 for the first and 10.4 on the second one. Now these results, probably every boot time is going to be a little bit different, but we're going as close to side by side as we possibly can. So the next thing we're going to do is do OpenOffice, and we'll do that here when we come back. All right, next thing that we did on the last tests with Windows 7 was launching OpenOffice. So we're going to select it, enter and start on the timer, and see how long that comes up. This is the first time that's loaded on this computer with the new hard drive. All right, so right about 10 seconds. I paused there for a second. I thought it was up and it wasn't. So we're going to estimate about 10 seconds would be fair. All right, the next thing we're going to do is, we're on the 500 gig hard drive yet. We're going to load a blank text document and a blank spreadsheet. We'll see what kind of times we get out of that. Reset our timer. Hit start. Did I get it? I got it. And waiting for that to fill the screen. There. 9.58 seconds. Windows 8, it was about 11. And this is not scientific at all, believe me. I'm sure if somebody slows this video down and looks at my reaction time, they're going to find that it's probably not as it should be. But nonetheless, giving us a general idea of the performance increases. So we're going to open OpenOffice again, and that was ridiculously quick. And this is off the traditional hard drive. So even if you're just, I mean, look at that. That's crazy. And it was about 10 seconds first boot. And now, let's time that. Now, granted, it's probably loaded much of that into memory. Yeah, less than 2 seconds. So that makes a difference. Once something's loaded in memory, it just sort of stays in there and boots up much, much quicker. Okay, now a spreadsheet document. I'll do that with the 240 gig as well. So we're still on the 500 gig, and we're going to do a spreadsheet. That was quick. 3.8 seconds. So that was pretty darn quick, and likely to be quicker if I do it again. Yeah, but I think that was probably less than a second. Yeah, that was crazy quick. All right, so we're just gonna go with the numbers that I have. And last thing is to load Audacity, and I'm gonna do shutdown. Excuse me, shutdown times on this as well. So we're actually gonna delete this. No, we're not. We're gonna leave it. Here's Audacity. Traditional 500 gig hard drive. This machine was running pretty slow before I did the factory restore. It was pretty doggy. So we're about 15.18 seconds. So those are pretty much our times. We'll do, in the next test on the 500 gig, we'll do a shutdown, but we'll pause this for now, and we'll do that in a different segment. All right, now we're going to load OpenOffice, and there was two different speeds that I logged last time. One was first launch, and the other one was reopening it, and the second one was very, very quick. So we're going to hit start, and so this is the first time I've opened Office. and 5.9 seconds on that first launch, and on the second launch it was less than 2, so this should be just ridiculously quick. Boom. Yeah, give me a 1 second on that one. That was crazy quick. Alright, so a lot of that's already loaded in RAM, so it doesn't have to work so hard. It's not pulling it all from the hard drive. So the next test we were going to do is on a text document. So we'll time that, and that was really quick. That was 3.37. And the first time I did that on the 500 gig hard drive was excuse me, 9.58. So a dramatic increase there. And we're gonna do the same thing. Yeah, you got about a second there as far as a launch time once you've had it open once. So we're gonna do this again. And yeah, less than 2 seconds. So under 2 seconds when I open it again. And we're gonna do now the spreadsheet. See how long that takes to open a blank spreadsheet. Reset our timer. Boom. 1.88. So you're looking at quite a bit of difference. The word processor on the other drive was 9.58 seconds. It was 3.37 seconds on this. 3.8 seconds for the spreadsheet. It was 1.8. So saving some time, quite a bit of time actually. And now we're going to go to load Audacity. Just a second. Okay, back to Audacity. We're going to select it. I haven't launched this before. And reset our timer. Hit start. And splash screen. 8 seconds, 9, 10. And there it is. So 11 seconds for Audacity, 15.8 prior. So we're 11.45. And now shutdown on the other computer was about 23 seconds. We'll see what this one's going to be here. Alright, so now I've run these series of tests on the 500 gig hard drive. And I'm going to shut down, and I'm going to wait until the light goes off when I know that thing is completely cold. So we're going to bring up the menu, which responds very nice. And we're going to shut down, and boink, there we go. Now it won't be completely shut down until this light goes off, and that's what I'm going to base my time on. Still hear the fans running. Hear a click on the hard drive every now and again. So it's still saving data. And there we go, about 23.75 seconds. All right, so that's going to be, I think, it for our 500 gig. That kind of just shows you, too, that this thing, like I said, was running really doggy before I did the restore. And just going through and doing factory restore on this makes a huge difference. But we'll cover more of that in probably the last segment of this video. So, all right, back in a flash. All right, back to the 240 gig hard drive. We're going to do a shutdown and bring up our window here and shut down. And waiting for the light to go off. Going off any day now. Doesn't matter. I have this thing folded up, plugged up, and there we go. 18 seconds. 18.9 roughly, as opposed to 23.7. So dramatic differences. So we'll do a summary here in just a moment. All right, so what did I take out of all of this? Well, a number of things. There are a lot of ways to increase the performance of your computer, from optimization software, which I do use from time to time. But if your computer's older and there's a lot of stuff going on and you're not adverse to investing a little bit of time in it, you can certainly take, your traditional hard drive, which I'll plug in again, your traditional hard drive, and clean it up, or do a factory restore, reload your software to it if you have the software, and and roll with that. And that's going to dramatically increase your performance by cleaning your system up quite a bit, starting basically from factory new. Now, understand that any software that you have is going to have to reload. You're going to need the disks for it, or to be able to download. If you have a digital license like I did when you upgrade to Windows 10 on these machines, you are able to go to 10 again. If you have not upgraded in the past, then you will not have access to that. That program, as I recall, ended in July. So whatever your factory software was, like if it was Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows whatever, that's what you'll end up with if you do a factory restore. And those CDs, DVDs are available from the manufacturers. Many of the HPs have a recovery partition on the hard drive, and you can simply access it from that, or you can order from the manufacturer. Again, they're pretty much available. Next thing you do is, if you want to replace the drive, you can put it in an SSD and do a factory restore, or find a way to clone, move that data over. Now, that is a service that I offer. I can install hard drives for you. I can clone existing hard drives. What I would recommend, though, is if you want an SSD, don't buy the cheapest ones out there. They have come down in price a lot, but get one of the reputable brands like SanDisk or Western Digital, or one of the other big ones. Seagate makes some. Crucial makes some really good ones there. I'm not endorsing any brand. I'm just saying there's a lot of good ones out there. But stay away from the super cheap, the no-name stuff. Also, there are different series. There's a newer and the older series, and the data transfer rates, 6 gig per second is going to be the faster. So that's right there. So, and you're going to see a dramatic performance increase. Now, the numbers that we saw, we're measuring in a matter of seconds, and some of them seem pretty much inconsequential, but I think what we're going to take away from this, or at least what I take away from this, and you can make your own judgment, is if you're saving a few seconds here and a few seconds there throughout the course of the workday, that all adds up. It's like what's 1 mile a gallon, but if you calculate that, for every tank or every month or year, then there's quite a bit of savings there as far as money, and time is money. And I think when you look at how much time we spend on our computers, whether it be browsing the internet or doing whatever, doing our work throughout the day, running through our social websites, whatever, that time is valuable. And you see a big difference, a big cumulative difference, if you're waiting for a system to boot, and you've got time to make coffee and come back before your machine's fired up. That can be kind of irritating. So yeah, I think there's some dramatic time savings and performance increases going to an SSD. I think it's worth it. On most of my machines, I'm going to do it. The next series, I think I'm going to do much of the same stuff, but I'm going to do it I did this on a PC, and I'll run the same tests on a Mac. And I've got a MacBook Pro as well as an iMac I'd like to do it on, and we'll see how that benefits those machines. And those machines are 2009, 2010 vintage. So roughly about the same age-ish as the PCs that I'm running. So stay tuned for those. I'll let you know when those come out. But yeah, to summarize this, I think there's a definite performance increase. It responds very well, and I'm happy with it, and enough that I'm probably going to run that upgrade in most of mine. Costs, I think I touched on it before. The 240 gig SSDs are $60 and change generally, so they're pretty inexpensive. And if you've got a 500 gig or 240 gig or whatever, then that's certainly worth doing. If you go to a 500 gig, you're looking at roughly, in today's prices, about $140. Again, for a quality brand. So the investment is not that much, and if you're going to use that computer for a few more years yet, you have that. If that is your goal, to extend the life of your computer for a few more years, I think that's certainly a valid and a valuable thing. Otherwise, as I said, just doing the recoveries or doing some basic optimization to your computer is certainly something that you can do as well. Again, those are all services that I offer, but I put these videos out here because I want to show you what's available, what's out there, and things that you can do yourself. I'm not just trying to tell you what I can do for you, but there's a lot of things here that you as a consumer can do. Removing the hard drives in most of these computers are very simple, take only about a moment to do. Doing the factory restores are simple to do. Even doing, installing an SSD, really simple. Give you an idea here. Let me go ahead and shut this down, and I'm going to flip this. I'm going to take this out and show you what I've done. And like I said, I've got this cable hanging out, and that's what my hard drive's connected to, but I'll flip it over. Now, the HP Envy that I have here is more difficult than a lot of computers to replace the hard drive on. If you're looking at this Envy, you're looking at very much like what you would have a MacBook Pro. And I'll try to move this here so we can see a little better. And now that I'm not powered off yet. Okay, now I'm off. Disconnect the hard drive. Close this up, flip it over. Yeah, this is much of what you're going to see on a MacBook Pro. And all right, good. Left the screws out of it because no sense in putting all the screws back in and out all the time. On a MacBook Pro, you have a little carriage, snaps in just like this one does, and this has a little holder for it as well that secures it into the bay here, so that just rolls over there and screws in on the side, and then you just mount it in the bay. So not very difficult at all. Most computers are even easier than this. You have a bay that has your RAM and your hard drive, and you just remove a door and you have access to it. You don't have to remove the whole back cover here. But this is the inside to an HP Envy. The model number is, if anybody's wondering, it's a HP Envy model 6-1010US. So it is a few years old. Came with Windows 7 Home Premium in it. So I'm going to button this thing up, and we're going to put this video together, and the next one that I do is going to be probably in a 500 gig hard drive. I'm going to upgrade a couple Macs. I'm going to do a MacBook Pro and an iMac, roughly 2009-2010 vintage. So stay tuned for that, and thanks again for watching.